Hey guys, tonight we're heading straight into the smoke, sweat, and splinters of one of the most brutal chapters in American history, the Civil War. But not as a general, not as Lincoln, as you, a fresh-faced volunteer who just signed their name and stepped into a world of itchy wool, endless mud, and an uncomfortable proximity to cannonballs. Your boots are new, for now, leather stiff enough to slice your heel like cheese. You're standing in line with dozens of other recruits, most of them equally confused, sweating under the July sun, while a mustached sergeant barks orders as if you personally insulted his mother. A military barber, using what looks like garden shears, gives you the world's fastest haircut, no style, all scalp. Your clothes are swapped for a standard-issue Union uniform, blue wool that smells like an attic and fits like it was tailored for someone's uncle's cousin. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and what time it is there. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're issued a rifle called a Springfield Model 8. Day 1 is bewildering. You stand in formation, trying not to sneeze as dust swirls up. You hear forward march and realize you're somehow marching backward. Historians still argue whether the average Civil War recruit received more than a few days of actual training. But you? You barely know how to shoulder your weapon, let alone fire in formation. And yet, you're now part of the glorious army. Congratulations! Your unit is green as corn in May. Some guys are excited, others are whispering about home already. One poor kid lies about his age. You're pretty sure he's 12, and he cries himself to sleep. No one says anything. You all miss home, even if you pretend otherwise. Your sergeant drills you at dawn. Left face. Right face. What the hell is that face? You're tired, sore, and already developing a love-hate relationship with hardtack, those legendary biscuits that could probably be used as armor plating. Little-known fact, soldiers sometimes carved them into checker pieces when their teeth gave up. By now, your body starts to rebel. Your feet blister, your back aches from carrying a 40-pound knapsack that feels heavier by the hour. And what's in it? A tin plate, utensils, some extra socks, your Bible if you're lucky, and tobacco if you're clever. That's about it. Oh, and a wool blanket that smells like every other soldier's sweat. You try writing home. The pencil breaks, the ink spills, your tent mate is snoring loudly next to you. But you scribble a few words to Mom anyway. Still alive, kinda. You meet your first enemy before any Confederate bullets fly, diarrhea. You can't trust a single drink of water unless it's been boiled. Latrines. Let's just say they're more theoretical than functional. And then there's your new home away from home, the army tent. 8 to 10 guys crammed inside, snoring, coughing, occasionally muttering about ghosts. Yes, ghosts, because apparently some soldiers are convinced the battlefield dead don't always stay buried. Quirky, but when the wind howls at night and you can't sleep, you start to wonder. You get your first real taste of discipline when one guy goes AWOL to find his dog. He's caught and forced to stand for hours with a wooden sign reading "coward" around his neck. It's humiliating, but honestly, you're secretly jealous he tried. Back in camp, meals are edible. Sometimes. Beans, salt pork, and more hardtack. And coffee. Sweet, life-saving coffee. Except not really. Because, surprise, Union blockades mean you're drinking coffee made from roasted chicory, burnt sweet potatoes, or even acorns. Yum. You're not even at the front yet, and already you've learned that most of war isn't glory. It's boredom, discomfort, and doing things that make no logical sense. Every night you lie down on a thin bedroll, under a tent that leaks if it rains, next to someone who hasn't bathed in weeks. You fall asleep to distant bugle calls, the sound of rustling rats, and that one guy whispering prayers in Latin. Probably just for effect. And yet, somehow, some part of you feels proud. Maybe it's the uniform. Maybe it's the camaraderie. Or maybe it's just that you haven't had time to second-guess everything yet. You wake up on day 4 to news. You're moving out tomorrow. Toward the front, you swallow hard, because suddenly this isn't pretend anymore. The bugle blasts before sunrise, and your heart's already racing. Today, you march. You stuff your few belongings into your knapsack, now damp from last night's dew. Your blanket's soggy. Your socks are stiff. You try to shake out a beetle that crawled into your boot overnight. It stares back at you like it enlisted too. You shoulder your gear, 40 pounds of essentials, give or take a dead squirrel's weight, and form up with your unit. You were told the enemy is maybe 30 miles away. That maybe carries weight. No one really knows. It's the Civil War, and maps are vague, scouts are spooked, and reliable communication is something future generations will invent. The road is mud, rocks, and misery. With every step, your new boots betray you. They weren't broken in, they're breaking you in. Within an hour, your feet are raw, your thighs are chafing, and someone ahead of you already passed out. No shame. Marching isn't just walking, it's walking while trying not to die of boredom, heat stroke, or existential dread. You quickly learn the rhythm of a soldier's day. March for hours, collapse in the shade if there is any, gnaw something vaguely food-like, and then march again. Your canteen water tastes like rust. You hope that metallic tang is just iron. You pass fields scorched from past battles, skeleton barns, and burned-out homes. Sometimes a family waves at you. Sometimes they just stare. One kid tosses you a green apple. You catch it like it's treasure, because it is. At night, camp life resumes. Only now, it's a more ragged, sleep-deprived version. Your tent is just a ground sheet strung between 2 sticks. You share it with a guy who plays harmonica badly, but won't stop. The wind howls. The fire sputters. The smoke burns your eyes, and mosquitoes chew what's left of your patience. Every soldier develops a strategy to make life bearable. Yours is whittling. You carve little animals from wood scraps. The guy next to you keeps a rock collection from every place you've camped. The sergeant calls it useless weight. But then you catch him staring at the stones one evening. Historians still argue whether these tiny rituals kept soldiers sane or just distracted them from the real madness. Rations arrive, late, always late. You chew on salted pork so tough it squeals when your teeth hit it. There's a saying in camp, if the beans aren't moving, they're not done. One night, your stew actually includes a shoelace. No one's even mad. It's protein adjacent. Then there's the lice. You've scratched yourself raw. Every man in camp has a louse line, an actual seam in their shirt where bugs congregate. The only way to kill them is to hold your shirt over a candle flame and hope it's not laundry day. One guy tried dunking himself in a creek. Came out with a rash and 2 leeches. Not a win. And coffee. Oh, sweet fantasy. The blockade chokes off real beans, so you try everything else. Acorns, chicory, dried corn, old leather. Some swear by burnt molasses. You even hear rumors of soldiers trying dandelion root. The joke writes itself. Civilization collapses, and you're drinking lawn weeds. But caffeine desperation binds you. One night, you trade half a week's rations for a single tin of real coffee. The aroma alone brings grown men to tears. You sip it slowly, reverently, as if it's holy water. That tin becomes more sacred than your rifle. Meanwhile, disease stalks camp like a ghost. One tent over, someone coughs. You immediately wonder if it's pneumonia, or worse. Someone else complains about belly thunder. That's diarrhea with a dramatic flair. You learn to avoid the latrine trench after nightfall. A guy fell in last week and had to burn his pants. You start to notice who doesn't wake up in the morning. No announcement, no ceremony. Just a body wrapped in a blanket, carried quietly to the edge of camp. Some are buried with their names scrawled on a scrap of wood. Others, not even that. You try not to remember their faces. You fail. Still, letters from home come in waves. You get one from your sister. It smells like lavender. You reread it 8 times, even though it's mostly about chickens and the neighbor's new pig. It makes you cry, then laugh, then cry again. One night, a guy from Georgia wanders into your camp. He's a Confederate deserter, barefoot, filthy, eyes hollow. Your sergeant doesn't trust him. No one does. But he shares a story of marching 200 miles just to stop fighting. He talks about his mother, his brother, his dog. You wonder how many more like him are out there. You hear rumors, always rumors, that Grant is winning, that Lee has surrendered, that the war will be over by Christmas. Except Christmas already passed. Twice. Someone tells you that General Sherman eats kittens. Another says the Confederates are using balloons to spy on you. Both probably false. Probably. You find comfort in strange things. The creak of the wagon wheels, the way firelight dances on your bayonet, the harmonica guy finally learning a second song. Someone carves a chest set out of soap. You all play by moonlight until one pawn melts in the rain. By now, your beard itches, your skin's sunburned, and your shoulders ache constantly. But something's shifted. You've adjusted, survived, adapted. And that's good, because in the morning, you're told to ready your rifle and pack your things. You're moving toward the front. Dawn breaks in watercolor streaks across the horizon. Pink, blue, ash gray. You barely notice. You're too busy repacking your knapsack for the 3rd time, trying to decide what's essential when everything hurts to carry. You ditch your harmonica buddy's soap chest porn. It started to smell. You fall into formation, rifle slung, heart hammering. The air feels electric. Something's different today. There's a hush over the camp, like the woods themselves are holding their breath. Then the word comes, marching to the front. No more drills. No more theory. This is it. The road changes. It narrows. Trees draw closer. Birds scatter ahead like they know what's coming. You notice officers speaking in clipped tones. Even the veterans have gone quiet. One mutters, "First blood changes you." You march. And march. 10 miles? 12? You stop counting. The ground gets rougher, your shoes less forgiving. At one point, you swear you hear cannon fire in the distance. Your stomach flips. Then the column halts. You're ordered to make camp, but not in tents. Not this close. You sleep behind rocks and under trees, wrapped in your coat, rain seeping in through your collar. It's called picket rest, because you're only halfway asleep. Rifle ready. Eyes twitching toward every shadow. By morning, your fingers are stiff. You eat hardtack and cold pork in silence. Then the bugle wails. You're moving into battle lines. Here's what they don't tell you. There's no cinematic build-up, no music swelling. Just orders. Fast, loud, confusing. You're herded into position like cattle, told to load, fix bayonets, and wait. And then, chaos. The first volley hits. You feel it before you hear it. A rumble like thunder under your feet. Then cracks, loud, violent cracks, as musket balls whip past your ears. Smoke erupts from the tree line ahead. You barely remember how to load your weapon. You fumble the cap. Your fingers feel enormous and useless. A man next to you screams and falls. Just like that. One moment arguing about beans. The next he's face down in the mud. You don't even see the wound. Your sergeant yells, "Fire," and your body moves before your brain catches up. You shoulder the Springfield, aim vaguely toward smoke, and squeeze the trigger. The recoil kicks your shoulder like a mule. Smoke blinds you. Your ears ring. Someone shouts, "Advance!" You stumble forward with the others, stepping over branches, rocks, bodies. You trip once and look down, a man with his eyes open, still clutching a Bible. Your mouth goes dry. You want to scream or cry or vomit, maybe all three. But you just keep moving. It's like your brain shuts off and your legs keep marching. Historians still argue whether Civil War soldiers actually followed orders or just got swept up in the chaos. But for you, it's clear, survival instinct takes the wheel. You fire again and again. By the fourth shot, you stop flinching. By the seventh, you reload faster than you thought possible. And then, silence. Just birds. Your own ragged breathing. The distant wheeze of someone dying. You slump behind a fallen tree, eyes stinging. The battle's done. For now, your hands are shaking. Your shirt is soaked with sweat, and, no, it's not your blood. You're okay. Mostly. Your friend, the one who carved chess pieces, isn't answering. You check his pulse. Nothing. You don't have time to grieve. You just close his eyes and keep moving. After battle, the stink hits harder. Gunpowder. Blood. Burnt fabric. Mud. And something worse. Something you can't name. Death has a smell, and now you know it. The wounded moan nearby. Field medics shout for stretchers, water, morphine, though they rarely have enough of any. You help carry someone whose leg is hanging on by a thread. He screams with every step. You try not to cry. A doctor shouts, "Get him to the sawbones," and that's when you see it, the field hospital, or what passes for one. A blood-soaked tarp, a row of bodies, a pile of limbs. That's a pile of limbs. You back away. Fast. Later, at camp, everyone's different. The loud ones are silent. The young ones look old. You sit by the fire with a 1,000-yard stare, still hearing the echo of cannon in your chest. You eat in silence, a stew of beans and regret. Someone plays a lullaby on a cracked fiddle. You almost laugh. Almost. One soldier tells the story of a bullet that went through his Bible instead of his heart. He keeps it on him now like armor. Another guy found a spent bullet stuck in his shoe, missed his foot by a thread. You examine your boots for holes just in case. And then someone cracks a joke, something crude about Confederate underwear, and like magic, the tension eases. Just a bit. That night, under the stars, you lie awake. You survived your first battle, barely. But you know the next one is coming, and it's not going to get easier. You don't sleep much after your first battle. The nightmares are short but vivid, muskets flashing in the dark, faces you can't forget, screams you wish you could. You wake up gasping, unsure whether you're still dreaming or just stuck in the memory. Your body's sore in ways you didn't know were possible. Everything aches. Your shoulders bruised from the rifle kick. Your knees feel like they've been sanded with gravel. Your ears still ring faintly, like some ghost drummers keeping time behind your eyes. But the real ache, that's inside. You lost 3 men from your company yesterday. One was your tent mate, the one who played harmonica. You find the instrument in his blanket roll. For some reason, that breaks you more than the sight of blood. And yet, you still have to function. There's a new kind of silence in camp now, heavier, like the trees themselves know what you've been through. Officers go hoarse shouting orders that nobody questions. You're drilled again the next day, but it's all a blur. Load, aim, fire, reload, march. You're more machine than man. Someone from another regiment says you were lucky. Could have been Cold Harbor, he mutters. Could have been worse. He's missing 2 fingers. You don't ask how. Historians still argue whether Civil War battlefields were strategically necessary or just places where bodies went to die. Either way, you're beginning to understand why some soldiers refused to fire at all. They weren't cowards, they were human. But this morning, your job is simple: survive another day. You're ordered to dig entrenchments. You grip a shovel instead of a musket and start carving into the earth. It's blistering work. The sun bakes your neck. Sweat runs into your eyes. Dirt cakes under your nails. But no one complains. Trench digging means no marching, no shooting. Someone jokes that it's like building your own grave in advance. You force a laugh. Then the cannon fire starts again, not at you, somewhere distant. The rumble shakes your ribs. Every head in camp turns. You're told you'll move again at dawn. That night, a chaplain offers a service by firelight. You're not particularly religious, but you sit there anyway. He talks about courage, sacrifice, duty. You stare at the flames and try not to picture the faces of the men you lost. A Confederate prisoner is marched through camp. Young, scared, looks just like you. You expect someone to spit or shout. No one does. He's just another boy in gray, dragged into this by politics he probably doesn't understand. Funny thing, the war isn't always black and white. You talk to a fellow Union soldier who says he joined not for country, but because he was promised a new pair of boots and $20. He hasn't seen either yet. Meanwhile, your stomach protests everything. The beans are undercooked, the pork smells suspicious, and the hardtack, well, you try to soften it by soaking it in coffee. Still cracks your tooth. You suck on a pebble to generate spit, a soldier's trick when rations run dry. Quirky fact of the day? Some guys toasted hardtack over the fire and then dipped it in bacon grease to make it edible. Sort of. The desperation cuisine of a soldier. You meet a group of black soldiers from the United States Colored Troops. You watch them drill, sharp, disciplined, serious. They don't mess around. You hear one of their officers was almost court-martialed for demanding equal pay. You can't tell if that's bravery or foolishness. Probably both. Somewhere nearby, a telegraph wire hums faintly. A reminder that news still moves faster than you do. You hear rumors that Lincoln visited the front last week. You wonder if he smells the same gunpowder you do, if he hears the screaming. Then comes mail call. Your name is shouted. You nearly knock over two men getting to the letter. It's from home. You clutch it like it's made of gold. Your mother's handwriting is shaky but warm. She asks how your appetite is, as if you aren't surviving on beans and regret. She says your dog misses you. That breaks you a little too. You write back. You don't mention the dead. You say the weather is nice, that you're fine, that you've seen some action. You lie, mostly to protect her. That night, a thunderstorm rolls in. No tents, just coats over heads. You try to sleep, but every lightning flash reminds you of muzzle fire. Thunder is just cannon in disguise. You dream you're back home. Sitting on your porch, your dog at your feet. The silence feels wrong. You wake up cold and confused. The war is in you now. Even your dreams wear blue. Someone says tomorrow's push will be bigger, bloodier. You reload your rifle with hands that don't shake anymore, because somehow you've gotten used to this. You're woken before sunrise by the quiet tap of your sergeant's boots on wet grass. No bugle, no shouting, just a hush, like the whole camp is tiptoeing towards something terrible. You grab your rifle. You already slept in your boots. There's no coffee this morning, no time. Just a chunk of cold cornbread in your mouth as you fall into line. Everyone's tense. The older guys aren't talking. The younger ones look like they've seen ghosts. Maybe they have. Maybe they are. Today's the day you're really fighting. You march through dawn mist toward the battlefield. The fog clings to your legs like something alive. You hear birdsong. Then, nothing. No drums, no distant fire. Just eerie, endless quiet. That's worse somehow. When it's loud, at least you know what's coming. You reach a ridge. Beyond it lies open ground. Beyond that, the enemy. You're ordered to hold position. You crouch behind a rock. Your heart slams so hard you feel it in your throat. And then it starts. First, the distant boom of cannon. Then the whistle of shells. Then, closer, cracks and snaps as musket fire opens from the tree line. You see puffs of smoke bloom like toxic flowers in the distance. Your officer shouts the order, advance. You move, up and over the ridge, through tall grass, across uneven ground that sucks at your boots like quicksand. Bullets hum past your head with that wasp-like buzz you now recognize all too well. You try not to look down, but your eyes catch things anyway. Discarded gear, broken rifles, a bloodied canteen, and bodies. From both sides. Some curled like they're sleeping. Some still reaching forward as if they died mid-step. You're ordered to form a firing line behind a half-fallen fence. You go through the motions like a ghost, ram the powder, seat the bullet, prime the cap, Raise, fire, reload. Again and again. Your shoulders numb from recoil. Your hands black with powder. Your lips dry and cracked from biting them. Next to you, a soldier drops his rifle and screams, not from pain, from panic. He runs. The officer draws his pistol and yells for him to halt. He doesn't. One shot. Then silence. You pretend you didn't see it. Historians still argue whether officers routinely shot their own men for cowardice. In this moment, though, you know it's true. Or at least, it feels true. And that's enough. Suddenly, you're flanking. Your unit wheels left, trying to catch the enemy line. It's chaos, smoke everywhere, no visibility. You're not even sure where your captain is anymore. Then you see a Confederate soldier, 10 yards away, young, barely shaving age. He sees you too. You both freeze, your muskets half loaded. His isn't raised. No one moves. Then he runs. You don't shoot. You couldn't, even if you wanted to. Your fingers are shaking too hard. Maybe he'll live. Maybe not. You don't tell anyone. What would you say? I let a kid go because he looked scared. That doesn't sound very heroic. Eventually, the gunfire slows. Not stops, just thins out, like a thunderstorm drifting off. You're ordered to fall back behind a stone wall. You sit, you breathe, you drink the last of your canteen and realize you have no idea how long it's been. Hours? Minutes? A courier rides past shouting, "We held the line." You don't cheer, you just nod, like someone congratulating a neighbor on painting their fence. Victory feels hollow. Someone else isn't so restrained. He whoops and waves his cap. You want to punch him, just a little. Not because you're angry, because you're tired of pretending this is a game. That night, you're assigned to stretcher duty. You carry the wounded off the field. Some are conscious, some are begging, some just stare. One man has no jaw left, but he keeps trying to talk. The field hospital is a horror show. Blood everywhere, sawdust on the ground, limbs stacked like firewood. The surgeon looks 15 and dead inside. You watch him saw off a leg in less than 2 minutes. They don't use anesthesia for everyone, just the lucky few. The rest bite down on leather straps or scream until they pass out. One guy hums Yankee Doodle while they amputate. That'll haunt you for a while. You help carry out the dead. It's quiet work. No one talks. Just the soft thump of boots on dirt and the creak of stretchers. You're given whiskey after. Not much. Just a tin cup. It burns like fire, but it calms your hands. You stare into the flames and think about everything except what just happened. A fellow soldier passes you a harmonica. Not the same one as before. This one's out of tune. You try to play a few notes. It sounds awful, but it makes someone chuckle. Small victories. And then comes mail again. You get a letter from a girl you barely remember. She writes about dances and flowers and church socials. She says she prays for you every night. You don't know what to say to that. You're not even sure you know who you are anymore. That night you lie awake again, listening to snoring, coughing, wind. You replay every shot you fired, every scream, every time your rifle jammed. You try to imagine tomorrow, but your brain doesn't get that far. It's stuck in today. You wake up soaked. Not from rain this time, but sweat. The kind that clings to you like a second skin and reeks of smoke, fear, and too many sleepless nights. You roll over and realize your arms numb. Probably from cradling your rifle all night, like it's a teddy bear made of oak and iron. No bugle this morning. No march. Because you're not going anywhere. You're a prisoner now. It happened fast. 1 minute you were skirmishing near a creek. Low brush, shallow water, not even a real battle. Then someone shouted, "Fall back." But you didn't hear it in time. You and a dozen others were suddenly surrounded by gray uniforms, rifles raised, hands shaking just as hard as yours. One Confederate kid couldn't have been older than 14. He looked more scared of you than you were of him. You dropped your rifle. He almost did the same. They marched you for hours. No food, little water. When you finally stopped, your legs were shaking like dry leaves. You tried not to show it. And now? Now you're in a Confederate prison camp. The guards say it's called Andersonville. You heard of it before. Whispers in camp, muttered curses from men who'd been there and made it out. Most didn't. The entrance smells like rot. The walls are logs sharpened into spikes, standing tall like angry teeth. Inside, there's no barracks, just a sprawling field of mud, tents, and misery. No beds, no straw. Just dirt. If you're lucky, a blanket. You're assigned a space barely wide enough to lie down. The latrine? A shallow trench, overflowing. The stench hits you before you even find it. Water comes from a small stream running through the middle of the camp. Everyone drinks from it, bathes in it, uses it for everything. You stop wondering why so many people are sick. Quirky fact of the day? Some prisoners built tiny underground ovens to cook with scavenged wood scraps and disguise the smoke. Called shebangs, they were half shelter, half defiance. Yours collapses on day 2. Rations are a joke. A few ounces of cornmeal, maybe a sliver of rancid pork if someone's feeling generous. You learn to chew slowly. You learn to barter. A spoonful of salt can get you a button. A book of matches? Practically currency. One guy trades a boot for a single onion. Not a pair, one boot. People get creative. You see a guy catch a rat, roast it on a stick, and share it with 3 others. Another claims he's building a kite to send a message over the fence. You never see the kite. You hope he was joking. Historians still argue whether conditions at places like Andersonville were a result of Confederate cruelty or just chaos and lack of resources. But standing in a line for water, behind a man with open sores and no shoes, you stop caring about blame. You just want out. You get lice. Again, you name one. General Itch. Gotta laugh, or you'll scream. To stay sane, you start carving things with a nail. Faces. Tiny chess pieces. The Confederate guards don't care, as long as you don't look like you're tunneling. You're not. You don't even have a spoon. Letters? Forget it. The mail comes once in a blue moon. You start writing one anyway, on a scrap of paper using charcoal and spit. It's addressed to your mother. You don't know if she'll ever see it. The worst part isn't the hunger, it's the waiting. Every day feels like the last one. Time drips by. People talk in circles, tell the same stories. You memorize every wrinkle on the face of the man lying next to you. You wake one night to shouting. A man is trying to climb the fence. He's halfway up before the guards shoot. He falls. No one moves. No one screams. We all just stare. A week later, a rumor sweeps through camp. A prisoner exchange might happen. Your heart actually races at the thought. But then the guard laughs and says, "Don't hold your breath, Yank." You don't. You start marking time with a rock. 1 scratch on your post for each day. When it rains, the scratches wash away. You don't redo them. Somehow, you find small moments of peace, watching birds circle the camp, trading stories with a fellow prisoner who swears he was once an actor. He recites Shakespeare from memory, voice raspy but clear. For a few minutes, it almost feels like you're somewhere else. And then reality returns. One morning, you wake up to find the man beside you cold and stiff. No one says anything. 2 others lift his body gently and carry him away. You're pretty sure they bury him outside the fence. Or maybe they don't. You don't ask. Eventually, your name is called. Not for burial, for release. You can't believe it. You're thin, filthy, and half feral, but you're still alive. You hobble to the gates, afraid they'll slam shut behind you. They don't. You're marched, then put on a rickety wagon, then handed off to the Union lines like a package someone forgot to wrap. When the blue uniforms appear, you almost cry. Almost. But you don't, because something inside you forgot how. You don't speak for the first few hours after release. Not because you're shy. You just can't. Words feel like a luxury, like hot meals and clean socks. You ride in a crowded wagon with other exchanged prisoners, all of you gaunt, sunken-eyed, and shell-shocked. No one talks. You communicate through nods, shared glances, the occasional grunt of pain when the wheels hit a bump. Your hands tremble, not just from malnutrition, but from the sheer weight of being out. Your first stop is a union recovery camp. They call it rest and recuperation, but it feels more like a halfway house between life and whatever it is you just clawed your way back from. The doctor there squints at your chart and whistles low. "Lucky one," he mutters. Then he gives you broth. Real broth. Warm, salty, thick with something that might have once been chicken. You don't gulp it down, you sip it like it's sacred. They give you a new uniform. It's too big, but it smells clean, and that's all that matters. The old one? You burn it. You don't want it anywhere near your skin again. You're given paper and pencil to write home. Your fingers cramp after 3 lines. You keep it short. Still alive. Will write more soon. You leave the date blank. Time feels meaningless. When you return to your old regiment, everything's changed. The camp looks familiar, but the faces? Different. So many gone. New replacements everywhere. Young, nervous, clean. They flinch when they see you, like you're a ghost. Maybe you are. Your old tent's been claimed. You don't fight it. You sleep outside for a few nights. Less claustrophobic that way. People treat you carefully, like a broken bayonet, sharp, but not quite functional. You get used to it. Kind of. One night, you sit by the fire with a few of the veterans. No one says anything for a while. Then one asks, "Was it really as bad as they say?" You pause, then say, "Worse." That's enough. No one pushes. That's the unspoken rule. You don't force stories out of people. You wait until they spill out on their own. Then come the letters. Again. You get one from your brother. He's annoyed you haven't written much. Says he's heard nothing but rumors. He also mentions someone named Abigail from down the road has asked about you. You blink at the name. It rings a distant bell, like a church in fog. You fold the letter carefully and tuck it into your shirt pocket, close to your chest. Morale in camp is strange. Some men are eager to fight again. Others are just going through the motions. You fall somewhere in between. You volunteer to help with supplies, guard duty, anything that doesn't involve shooting. One day, you escort a sutler, those civilian merchants who sell everything from tobacco to combs, into camp. He tries to sell you a pocket watch. You ask him what time it is. He says, "Time to pay up." You don't laugh, neither does he. You trade him a Confederate knife you kept from the prison. He raises an eyebrow but says nothing. You use the watch to time your meals, gives structure to the void. Meanwhile, the younger soldiers idolize you. "You made it out of Andersonville," one asks with awe. You shrug. "Didn't have a choice." That becomes your answer for most things. Historians still argue whether men who survived Civil War prison camps were hardened or broken. You think the answer is yes. You write more now. Short letters. Sometimes just poems or odd sketches. Your bunkmate finds one where you doodled a musket crying. He doesn't ask questions. You see a chaplain again. He asks if you've thanked God. You say you're still figuring out who to thank and who to blame. He nods like that's a common response. Your appetite returns slowly. You eat more. Sleep deeper. Dream less. And then, just as you're getting used to the idea of being alive, orders come in. You're moving out again. No one cheers. You just pack. Quietly. Methodically. Like preparing for a rainstorm you know will flood the tent, drown the fire, and carry you off if you're not careful. You sling your rifle over your shoulder. Your new boots are stiff, but not unbearable. You miss the old pair, even with the holes. That night, as you lie under the stars, someone starts singing. It's a lullaby, one your mother used to hum. You close your eyes and let it wash over you. Not peace, but something like it. You march again. Different terrain this time. Thick woods, muddy creeks, rolling hills that seem custom designed to twist your ankles and test your patience. The heat's worse than ever. The air feels heavy, like breathing through wool. Every step kicks up dust that settles into your throat and eyes like powdered regret. And you're not even being shot at yet. The officers call it maneuvering. You call it wandering until someone dies. You're moving towards somewhere important, probably. No one tells you much. After a few days, the fatigue hits like a falling tree. You find yourself nodding off while walking. Your dreams and reality start to blur. One minute you're trudging forward, the next you're imagining a kitchen table with cornbread and fresh milk. You bite your tongue to stay awake. You start to hear more coughing around you, wet, hacking, ugly. One guy can't stop shivering even though it's 90 degrees out. You know the signs. Welcome to sick call roulette. It's a game every Civil War soldier plays. The rules. Feel terrible. Decide whether to report to the surgeon's tent. Hope it's not the last thing you ever do. You're not feeling great yourself. Your stomach's doing cartwheels, and your head feels like it's filled with boiling water. You debate going to sick call. Then you remember what the hospital tent looks like. Spoiler, it's not inspiring. It's not a hospital, as you imagine it. No clean linens, no antiseptic smells. Just canvas, flies, and groaning bodies lined up like logs in a lumberyard. The surgeon is shirtless, exhausted, and reeking of whiskey. His apron is stained with things you try not to identify. Historians still argue whether the mortality rate in Civil War hospitals was higher from wounds or from the medicine itself. The answer, unfortunately, leans toward the latter. If you're lucky, you get quinine for fever, calomel for everything else, don't ask, or a shot of morphine if things are really bad. You've heard stories of men losing teeth, hair, and memories from the treatments alone. One guy swears the medicine made him forget how to tie his boots. You watch a young soldier get a tooth pulled by a man using pliers. There's no chair, no anesthesia, just a block of wood to bite down on. You decide to brush more often with your ragged bristle brush and river water. Can't hurt. Later you pass a soldier vomiting behind a tree. He looks up at you with hollow eyes and says, "Don't drink from the south side of the creek. It's where the horses bathe." You nod like you hadn't just refilled your canteen from that exact spot an hour ago. Fingers crossed. There's an outbreak of something in camp, measles maybe, or typhoid. Everyone's guessing. No one's a doctor. Your captain just shrugs and mutters, "Keep your distance and don't die." You get creative. You boil your water obsessively. Sleep with a scarf tied over your nose. One guy makes a charm from chicken bones and wears it around his neck. He swears it works. You don't believe him, but he's the only one in your tent still healthy. You begin to notice who's limping, who's coughing more, who's missing at morning roll call. You don't ask where they've gone. They don't usually come back. The smell of sickness becomes part of camp life. Sour sweat, open sores, damp wool. You try to breathe through your mouth, but even that turns your stomach sometimes. And then, by some miracle, you start to feel better. Maybe it's the boiled water. Maybe it's luck. Maybe it's just your body adapting, like some horrible trial version of evolution. Whatever it is, you hold on to it like gold. You return to full duty and immediately regret it. Because camp life isn't all lying around and nearly dying. It's digging latrines, collecting firewood, scrubbing pans, and drilling under the merciless sun. You sweat through your uniform by mid-morning and smell like a burnt swamp rat by noon. Your rations are thin again. The pork's gone slimy. The beans are undercooked. You trade your last plug of tobacco for a spoonful of molasses and eat it like dessert. One night, a guy in your company breaks out in hives after dinner. Turns out the stew was experimental. As in, they tried boiling shoe leather with onion peels. Tasted like sadness. To distract yourself, you start sketching again. Faces, mostly. Men you've known. Men who didn't come back. One of your sketches makes it into a letter home. Your sister writes back, "You've gotten good at drawing eyes." She doesn't realize they're all based on people who died. You try not to make that the reply. Meanwhile, one of your tent mates comes back from the hospital. He's thinner, quieter, and smells vaguely of antiseptic and rot. He sleeps constantly, wakes suddenly, and mumbles about bugs crawling under his skin. You keep your distance, but you leave your extra blanket where he can reach it. You don't say anything, because one day, that'll be you. You're hungry. Again. You've been hungry before, but this is different. It's not the kind of hunger that growls, it gnaws, quietly, constantly, like a rat chewing through your insides. The kind that makes you think about food all the time. About butter melting on cornbread. About bacon sizzling in a pan. About a raw potato just sitting there like a gift from heaven. The rations have gotten worse. Salt pork, if you get it, arrives grey and wet, like it's been dragged behind a wagon. The hardtack is still the same concrete-like biscuit, but now it has friends. Weevils. You hold each one up to the light and tap it like a prospector looking for gold. Beans, when they come, are often more bug than bean. You eat them anyway. There's an old joke that stopped being a joke. What's the difference between Union stew and a bullet? One will kill you faster. The sutler wagons, those civilian-run mobile shops, used to be a godsend. They'd pull up with tobacco, coffee, canned peaches, even socks. Overpriced, sure, but real. Now, they're rare as rain. And when they do appear, they're swarmed like a kicked beehive. You see a man trade a family photo for a tin of sardines. Someone else sells his coat for a plug of chewing tobacco. Supply and demand in its rawest form. You try to get clever. You sneak off early one morning with a few buddies to forage. Nothing big, just a detour into the woods. You find blackberries, a turtle, don't ask, and a hen that might belong to a local farm. You leave behind 2 buttons as payment. That makes it morally fine, right? You eat like kings that night. Real meat, real flavor. The grease burns your tongue, and you don't care. Someone starts singing Home, Sweet Home, and you join in, off-key and grinning. Until the sergeant finds out. You're given latrine duty for a week. Worth it. Then you try bartering. You trade a nearly full ink bottle for a lump of brown sugar. You'd been saving that ink for letters, but letters don't fill your stomach. Sugar, you learn, is better than gold. You sprinkle it onto a slab of fried cornmeal and pretend you're eating cake. Your tent mate cries a little. You don't ask why. Then you get desperate. You steal. It starts small, slipping an extra biscuit when no one's looking. Swapping out your half-spoiled pork for someone else's better cut while they're on watch. One night, you're actually caught sneaking near the officer's supply tent. You freeze, hands full of dried apples. The officer stares at you for a long moment, then mutters, "Get out of here." You do. No punishment. Maybe he understands. Maybe he just didn't want to write the paperwork. Either way, you owe him. You quietly leave one of your few good socks outside his tent a week later. Soldier's honor. Historians still argue whether food shortages were due more to corruption or sheer logistical collapse. You're not sure. You just know that hunger makes people do things they never thought they would. You meet a man who brews his own coffee using burnt cornmeal and chicory root. It tastes like dirt filtered through a dead man's sock, but it's warm. That's enough. Someone else makes tobacco from dried leaves and soot. You try it. Your lungs revolt. You pretend it was good anyway. Quirky moment? One guy builds a tiny still using tin cups and musket parts. Claims he can distill moonshine from fermented apple cores. He produces 1 half-full flask. Everyone gets 1 sip. It tastes like burning and regret, but you toast to it all the same. When the sutlers finally return, they're selling glass jars of pickled eggs for 5 times the normal price. You buy one. Eat it with shaking hands. It's rubbery and sour and perfect. You dream of food constantly. One night you imagine your mother's peach cobbler thick and steaming on the windowsill. You wake up chewing on your blanket. Another night you dream of a dinner table so long it stretches into the clouds. Every chair is filled by the men you've lost. They all pass you plates, and you can never reach them. When payday comes, finally, you barely see the coins before they're gone. Some men buy trinkets. Others write home asking family to send anything edible. You trade all your wages for a bag of dried cherries. You share them with no one. The hunger dulls everything. It makes you irritable, makes your thoughts sticky and slow. makes you dream about stealing from your own tent mate, then wake up sweating because you almost did. You think about the rats, not just as pests anymore. You understand why someone would trap one. Skin it, roast it, eat it. You haven't yet, but you think about it. And that, more than anything, tells you how far you've come and how far you've fallen. You've survived bullets, disease, prison, and hunger. But there's something else that might finish you off. Your own side. Camp life isn't all blue coats and brotherhood. Now that you've been around a while, the shine's worn off. The real war. It might just be the one fought in whispers, glares and drunken brawls behind the tents. It starts with your captain, a man you once admired. Sharp uniform, sharp jaw, sharp temper. You thought he was fearless. Turns out he's just good at hiding behind regulations and yelling louder than his men. One night, he punishes a soldier for not polishing his boots, while 3 others are too sick to stand. Discipline's important, sure, but there's something off about it now. Less leadership, more ego. You hear rumors. He forged signatures for leave. He pocketed ration money. You try not to believe it, until you see him smoking imported cigars while the rest of you chew on pine bark tea. And that's not all. You've seen fights break out over the dumbest things. A stolen blanket, a borrowed cup, someone looking at someone else the wrong way during roll call. Tension is thick. Everyone's nerves are frayed. You once saw a man punch another over a game of cards, except there were no cards. They were drawing rocks and pretending. Someone's caught cheating during poker with carved wooden chips. He's nearly bayoneted. The sergeant breaks it up with the butt of his rifle. You start avoiding the mess tent. That's where gossip lives. You hear stories about another regiment attacking their own quartermaster over spoiled meat. That someone lit a rival soldier's blanket on fire while he slept. One soldier got his fingers broken for stealing someone else's spoon. Historians still argue whether morale actually collapsed this much in the average camp, or whether the worst cases just got remembered best. All you know is, at night you keep your knife close, and you don't sleep too deep. Then there's the drinking. Oh, the drinking. Any alcohol in camp is either illicit or terrible, or both. A bottle of real whiskey is worth more than your musket. Most guys settle for fire brew, moonshine made in contraband stills behind the latrines. You try one sip once, you don't remember much after. You wake up in a pile of laundry with someone else's sock in your mouth. You don't ask questions, but drink brings out the worst. The loud ones get louder, the quiet ones crack. You've seen fists fly, boots stomped into ribs, and one poor soul who tried to sing Dixie during mess and got his front tooth knocked out by a boot heel. Even among Union soldiers, tensions simmer, especially between the older veterans and the green recruits. The new guys are nervous, too clean, too eager. They joke too much about killing rebs. The older guys? They don't joke about anything. You once snap at a fresh recruit for humming during formation. You surprise even yourself with the rage. You apologize later, sort of. And then there are the racial tensions. You're fighting alongside the US colored troops now, black regiments who drill twice as hard and get paid half as much. Some white soldiers resent them, others admire them. You find yourself somewhere in the middle, watching and wondering how they put up with the treatment. One of them saves a wounded Union soldier during a skirmish, carries him on his back a quarter-mile under fire. The man never says thank you. Just lights a cigarette and says, "Guess that makes us even." The tension doesn't always explode. Sometimes it just simmers. You hear a slur muttered under breath, a slight insult passed off as a joke. One night, someone throws dung at a black regiment's tent. No one sees who. No one admits anything. The next morning, they stand a little straighter, march a little harder. You quietly hope they win every battle. Then there are the punishments. You see a man tied up by his thumbs for sneaking out of camp. Another is forced to carry a sign reading "thief" around his neck for a week. One soldier, drunk and disorderly, gets strapped to a wheel with his arms spread like a scarecrow. He stares blankly into the sun for hours. You want to be outraged, but you're too tired. Your tent mate tells you a story one night, about a Union soldier who shot his own sergeant because he couldn't take another day of orders. He was executed at dawn. The entire camp had to watch. You didn't believe it then. Now you do. Because you understand. You understand how the war can twist a person, not just break them, but bend them into someone they never imagined being. Rage lives closer to the surface now. Even your dreams are louder. One night, you catch yourself yelling in your sleep. Your tent mates don't say anything, but they shift their bedrolls a few feet farther away the next night. You don't blame them. So you find little ways to stay sane. You start writing down jokes, just one-liners. Dumb stuff. What's a soldier's favorite fruit? Cannonball melon. They're terrible, but they make you chuckle. You start helping the camp cook. It's thankless, but the routine helps. Chop, stir, season, serve. Repeat. You hum to yourself and pretend it matters, and sometimes it does. Sometimes a soldier says thanks. Sometimes someone laughs at one of your dumb jokes. Sometimes, just for a second, you remember who you were before this, and that second, you hold on to it. The orders come down in a whisper. Volunteers for special duty. You don't raise your hand, not at first, but your sergeant looks your way with that quiet, guilt-laced expression that says, "It's your turn." So, like most things in this war, you step forward not out of bravery, but inertia. Turns out, special duty means spycraft, not the glamorous kind, mind you. No tuxedos or secret codes carved into rings. You're handed a ragged civilian shirt, a badly dyed pair of pants, and a crooked hat that smells like mildew and tobacco spit. Congratulations, you're now a farmer named Elijah, traveling to definitely not collect intelligence. The goal? Sneak across enemy lines, gather details about Confederate supply routes, and get back without being shot, stabbed, or strung up by your own side for looking too convincing. You're given a list of phrases to remember. Things like, "The mules ain't biting this summer," which apparently means supply line weakened near the river. You try saying it with a southern drawl and end up sounding like a drunk scarecrow. Historians still argue how effective Civil War spies really were. Some say they turned battles. Others claim most of them just wandered into creeks and got arrested. You're determined not to be the latter. Your briefing includes a quick lesson in invisible ink. Lemon juice, mostly. Write a message, let it dry, heat it later to reveal it. Your first attempt ends in flames. You tell the officer your report was too hot to handle. He doesn't laugh. You're sent out at dusk, walking alone, armed with nothing more than a forged pass, a belly full of beans, and the kind of fear that vibrates in your teeth. You cross into Confederate-held territory, disguised as a wandering peddler. You carry a sack full of buttons, combs, and prayer cards. You actually manage to sell one. You make small talk with a Southern soldier who might know what you are. You talk about fishing, about the heat, about that danged mule shortage. He nods, spits, and waves you on. You nearly collapse from relief 2 miles later. You reach a rail junction and count the supply wagons. 4, no, 5. You jot it down in the hem of your sleeve using crushed berries. Low tech, but less flammable. On the way back, you run into trouble. A trio of Confederate pickets stops you. One smells like moonshine and looks at your boots too long. He asks what regiment you're from. You mumble something about Georgia Reserves. He squints. Asks your cousin's name. You say Bo. He nods and lets you go. Bo saves your life. You return to camp 3 days later, covered in dust, sweat, and what might be pig droppings. The officer in charge reads your report like it's a love letter. "You done good," he says, clapping your back hard enough to knock the breath out of you. You think that's the end of your secret service. It's not. A week later, you're assigned to sabotage detail. You and 2 others sneak out at night toward a Confederate telegraph line. Your job? Cut the wires. Easy in theory. In practice? It's like crawling through a mosquito-infested haystack while praying not to sneeze. You reach the pole. One guy climbs. You keep watch. Your heart hammers. Every snapping twig sounds like a gun cocking. Finally, the line's cut. You run like someone set your pants on fire. One of you drops a shoe. You don't go back. Quirky moment? One soldier in your unit creates a fake exploding cigar and tries to sneak it into Confederate hands. It doesn't explode. It just fizzles out with a sad little pop. Everyone laughs. Then someone suggests hiding mini notes inside cigars. That actually works until someone accidentally smokes the message. Sometimes espionage isn't cloak and dagger. Sometimes it's rumor. You hear that Lee is sick, or dead, or possessed by Lincoln's ghost. One guy insists the Confederates are training alligators for swamp warfare. You start one about Confederate horses being scared of harmonicas. It spreads. One night, an entire enemy unit panics when they hear music in the woods. Victory. Still, the danger's always real. You learn to spot double agents. The guy who asks too many questions. Who writes too much. Who never sweats, even when it's 100 degrees. You never confirm it, but one day he's just gone. The spy game wears on you. Makes you jumpier, more suspicious. You flinch when someone touches your sleeve. You start sleeping with your boots on again, just in case. And yet, you feel useful. Not just a cog in the firing line. You're gathering intel, making moves that matter. At least, that's what you tell yourself when you can't sleep. And sometimes, it does matter. The info you gather helps your unit ambush a Confederate supply wagon. You recover barrels of flour, salt, and actual, honest-to-God coffee beans. You're a hero for about 30 seconds. Then it's back to marching, back to digging, back to pretending the harmonica kid didn't just start playing again. Still, you smile more than usual that night, because now at least, you've got real coffee in your tin cup. And that, in this war, might just be better than a medal. You're in camp again, boots kicked off, back against a tree that's been stabbed with bayonets so many times it looks like it fought in the war too. The air smells like burnt beans and unwashed socks, so, the usual. You're staring at a letter. Well, part of a letter. It's from home, but it's been censored. Entire sentences blacked out with thick ink lines. Your sister, Squint, the baby, Fopper, the preacher said Fopper stormed damaged prayers. You squint. You tilt the paper. You hold it up to the sun. It doesn't help. You're left with fragments and confusion. That's the home front for you. Close but unreachable. Familiar, yet foreign. Back in the beginning, folks sent long letters stuffed with news and gossip. Now, fewer words, less cheer. A sort of cautious tone, like they're trying not to say the wrong thing, or trying not to let on how bad things are getting back home. And that's when it hits you. They're fighting their own war. Your mother's last letter mentioned the price of flour tripling. Your brother wrote about draft riots in New York. A neighbor you used to fish with is in jail for refusing conscription. You thought you'd be the one writing stories of hardship, but now it's coming from them. They're rationing food, they're burying sons, they're reading headlines that say heroic advance while you're cleaning blood from your sleeves. Historians still argue whether civilians ever really understood the soldier's life during the Civil War. Judging by the mail you get, the answer's not really. One guy in your unit got a letter saying, "Can't wait to hear all your adventures." He didn't respond, just threw it in the fire and walked off. You start noticing a strange gap between the letters and reality. Your cousin talks about how the local paper said your regiment liberated a town. You were there. The only thing liberated was a barn full of chickens and someone's last bottle of whiskey. There's a disconnect, a blur between what's printed and what's lived. You remember seeing a Union newspaper once that claimed the rebels are on the run, the same day you buried 4 men after a retreat. You laughed so hard, you nearly choked. Propaganda isn't subtle out here. One day, a photographer visits your camp. He's lugging a camera the size of a cannon, all brass and mystery. He stages everything, asks you to pose with your rifle, to scowl dramatically, to look exhausted but noble. You want to punch him and pose for him at the same time. The photos will show up in a shop window back home. Mothers will cry. Kids will stare in awe. Politicians will use them to make speeches, and you'll still be here, digging latrines. Later, you hear that one of your battlefields has been turned into a tourist site. Civilians are buying bullet casings, taking picnics where you once watched a man die slowly from a gut shot. Quirky moment. Someone gets a care package from home. It contains socks, a Bible, and a pie. A full, homemade pie. How it survived the journey is a mystery. The recipient becomes a legend. That night, 10 men offer to marry his sister, sight unseen. You start writing back more often, but your tone shifts. You stop sugarcoating. Instead of "we're holding strong," you write, "we're holding barely." You stop saying, "the food is okay," and start saying, "send vinegar, anything, even pickles, especially pickles." You ask fewer questions and share more memories, just in case, because you've learned you can't go home again, not really. Not while this thing's still burning, not while you're still waking up every hour to phantom drums in your ears. And yet, the home front needs to believe you'll come back the same. They want you to be brave, noble, clean. You want them to understand that you're scared, dirty, and just trying to keep your socks dry. One day, your tent mate gets a letter telling him his girl married someone else. He stares at it for a long time, then folds it carefully and puts it in his boot. He doesn't say a word for 2 days. Another guy gets a drawing from his daughter, a crooked, crayon-red picture of a house with smoke coming out the chimney. It's labeled "Daddy's Home." He tacks it above his cot and stares at it every night like it's a map to somewhere he's trying to find. Some letters never arrive. Some arrive too late. One soldier learns his brother died in battle 3 months ago. The mail just took that long. He spends the rest of the evening carving the initials into the butt of his rifle. Just 2 letters. Over and over. Even your commanding officer seems affected. You catch him one evening holding a small, folded note. He's got tears in his eyes. You pretend not to see. Later, he drills you harder than usual. No one complains. In quieter moments, you wonder what they'll say about you back home. Will you be the brave survivor? The forgotten name on a monument? A story told at Thanksgiving? You think about the people who'll never know the truth, that bravery smells like blood and gunpowder, that heroes cry behind the latrines, that most battles are fought after the guns go quiet. You keep writing, even when you have nothing left to say, just so they won't forget you exist. You end each letter the same way now. Still here, still trying. And that feels honest. The war drags on. You're not even sure how many months it's been now. They blur together, muddy marches, crackling fires, ration lines, burials. You stopped marking time a while ago. The only clock that matters is the one ticking in your chest when someone says, "skirmish at dawn." And now, that ticking is louder than ever. There's word of a final push. Everyone says it. The last campaign. The death throes. One big charge and then it's over. You've heard it before, and every time, more men disappear into the trees and don't come back out. But this time, the officers look different, tired in a final way, as if they believe it now too. You're told to rest up. You can't. Your hands tremble when you try to sleep. Your dreams are short and brutal. You wake up with your fingers clenched so tight your nails leave bloody crescents in your palms. Your knapsack is lighter than ever, not because you've packed well, just because you've lost, traded, or burned half your gear by now. The less you carry, the less weight when you have to run. You lace your boots slowly that morning, like you're tying yourself into a fate you can't change. Your captain gives a speech. It's good, stirring. You don't remember a word of it. You just nod and march. This battle, whatever it's called, starts before you're ready. It always does. The cannon fire isn't just loud, it's inside you, shaking your spine. The smoke is thicker than ever. You can't see 10 feet ahead. You reload blindly. Fire by reflex. Your fingers move faster than your brain. You don't even hear yourself shouting. You think you see someone you know go down. You don't check. You can't check. There's no time for mourning here, just movement. You advance, then retreat. Then advance again. You don't even ask why anymore. By midday, your ears are ringing constantly. Your throat is raw from smoke and screams. Your rifle is slick with sweat and blood, someone else's, you think. You see men fighting with bayonets, fists, rocks, anything. One soldier swings a frying pan like a club. Another stabs with a broken saber, still tied to his belt with rope. Quirky fact of the day? Some men sharpened the edges of their canteen lids to use as emergency blades. You never thought it'd matter, until you watch one save a man's life. Your own close call comes around late afternoon. You're running through brush when a bullet slices past your temple. You feel a burning line, like someone dragged a hot nail across your scalp. You drop to your knees, clutching your head. Blood, but not much. You're alive. You don't move for a full minute. Just kneel there, trying to breathe, trying to remember what your name is. Someone grabs your shoulder and shouts, "Up, up, keep moving." You follow, legs wooden. The smoke hides you, and you hide in it. By dusk, the gunfire slows. Not stops, just wheezes like a dying breath. The field is quiet in the most terrible way. You sit behind a log and press your canteen to your lips. Warm, metallic, heaven, you made it. Again, but you've never felt so done. You look around and see the blank stares of men who've seen too much and still expect more. One guy whispers to himself over and over. Another just laughs. You don't know which is worse. Historians still argue whether the final campaigns of the Civil War were truly decisive, or just the slow bleeding out of two exhausted armies. You've decided. They were both. Everyone's broken, but no one wants to blink first. That night, camp is ghostly quiet. You can hear every crack of wood in the fire, every cough, every rustle of canvas. Your hands are still shaking. Someone walks by with a lantern and you flinch. Your body is whole, but your nerves, frayed, barely there. You stare into the flames, wondering if you'll ever sleep again without hearing cannon fire in your lungs. And then the letter comes. It's smudged, crumpled, clearly carried by 6 different couriers who all hated their jobs. It's from your father. He writes, "We're proud of you. Come home soon. The barn roof collapsed. We'll need help fixing it." You laugh. Not because it's funny, but because it's normal. And normal now feels more alien than this war ever did. Your sergeant walks by, says something about maybe a ceasefire soon. No one reacts. You keep staring at the letter. You wonder if your dog is still alive. You wonder if your mother still hums when she cooks. You wonder if, when this ends, you'll go home as a hero or just someone who survived. You wonder if those are the same thing. The war ends on a morning so ordinary, you almost don't believe it. There's no trumpet, no banner flying in the breeze, just a low murmuring through the ranks, like someone passed along a joke no one quite understands. Lee surrendered. You blink. Someone repeats it. Lee surrendered. You wait for the punchline. You expect a sergeant to yell, "Get back to your drills," but it doesn't come. Instead, more voices pick it up. Men stop in mid-shave, in mid-cough, in mid-sentence. You see someone drop their tin plate and not even notice. You shuffle toward the officers' tents, half expecting this to be a prank. But no, it's real. Word spreads. Upper Mattocks. Lee's troops. Surrender. Peace. Peace. It hits you in pieces. Not all at once. You don't cheer. Not right away. No one does. You sit down on a log and stare at your boots. The same boots that marched through rain, blood, snow, and ash. That kicked through prison dirt and Confederate campsites and back again. And now, they just sit there. Your hands hang loose at your sides. You feel like someone lifted a weight you didn't know you were carrying. and now you're floating a little too far from the ground. Historians still argue whether Union soldiers celebrated or just collapsed at the end. For you, it's the latter, a quiet folding inward. A long exhale. There's no parade, no hero's welcome. Instead, you get paperwork, demobilization orders, stamped and signed. A list of things to return: uniform, rifle, canteen, tent cloth. They let you keep your boots, small mercies. You're given a final ration, hardtack, dried apples and salted meat that might be older than the war itself. You eat it anyway. Then comes the real kicker: back pay. They owe you months. You're handed a stack of bills so small it's laughable. One guy gets a single coin and we'll make it up to you. He flips the coin in the air and walks away. Your tent mate, a guy who hasn't smiled in weeks, rips his pay stub in half and says, "Freedom's worth more than this anyway." You nod, but you still pocket the money. Then the walking begins. Again, you're going home, but that word doesn't mean what it used to. The roads are rough. There are no supply wagons now, no cavalry escorts, no sense of structure. Just scattered men in blue uniforms, trudging back toward wherever they came from. Some stay together, others peel off at crossroads, waving once, disappearing into the trees. You don't even know some of their names, but when they vanish into the fog, you feel it like a tooth being pulled. You pass towns burned to ash, farms stripped bare, churches without roofs. A child throws a rock at your column. Someone yells, "Murderer!" You keep walking. The war may be over, but the bitterness? Still fresh. You reach a supply stop in a border town. The depot is a joke, just crates, a fire pit, and a corporal who looks more exhausted than you. He hands you a half loaf of bread and a tin of molasses. You nod thanks. Someone starts playing a fiddle that night. The tune is slow, mournful. It isn't victory music, it's memory music. You lie back, staring at the stars, wondering what they saw while you were fighting. Back in camp, you start seeing signs of the next war, the one inside. The guy who twitches at sudden noises. The one who stopped talking altogether. The one who keeps digging shallow trenches near his cot, as if expecting another cannonball to land any minute. You find yourself snapping at people, flinching at harmless shouts, dreaming of boots in your face and waking up with your fists clenched. No one talks about it. There's no name for it. Not yet, but it's real. Quirky moment? Someone starts a rumor that Union veterans will be given free land in the West. You laugh. Then stop laughing when you hear some of the officers believe it too. Maybe it's true. Maybe you'll be a farmer now. You try writing home again. Your hand hesitates on the page. You've forgotten how to describe peace. You write, "I'm on my way. I hope the fields are still green." You add, "I'd like to see the dog again," then scratch it out. You arrive at a rail depot. It's crowded, loud, confusing. A conductor shouts destinations. People push past you. A woman drops a pie box and weeps. You don't know why, but you feel it too. You board a train packed with soldiers in wrinkled uniforms. Someone offers a flask. Someone else tells a joke about Grant and a goat. You laugh without meaning to. The train rumbles forward. Steam hisses. The landscape blurs. For the first time in years, you're moving towards something without a rifle. You lean against the window, watching the trees slide by. You're free, but you're not the same. The train slows with a screech so long and metallic, it feels like the war itself is sighing. You blink against the sunlight, cutting through the smoke-streaked glass, and realize this stop, this dusty, nondescript wooden platform, is home. Or at least, what's left of it. You step down from the car, duffel in hand, boots scuffed, uniform faded, heart somewhere back in Virginia. Your name doesn't echo. No band plays, no banners hang from porches. A boy watches you from behind a fence, clutching a toy horse carved from scrap wood. He doesn't wave, he just stares. You start down the road toward your old farm. Your knees ache, your shoulder throbs from an old bayonet nick, and your packstrap has worn a permanent line into your collarbone. You know every rock on this road. But it all looks a little smaller now. The barn is there, leaning a little more than you remember. The smokehouse door is off its hinges. Someone's mended the fence with twine and luck. The fields are patchy, overgrown in places, raw in others, worked by hands that had to carry on while you were gone. You stop at the gate and just wait. A voice calls your name, your mother. She doesn't cry, she doesn't run, she just walks slowly to you and lays a hand on your cheek like she's checking if you're real. You smile. A cracked, uneven thing. Behind her, your brother's older, taller, wearing your old coat. Your sister carries a basket of laundry like it's the same day she last saw you. The dog? Different one. You knew that already. But still, you sleep in your old bed that night. It's too soft, the silence too loud. You wake up 3 times, heart racing, reaching for a rifle that isn't there. You sit outside on the porch the next morning, sipping weak coffee, watching a chicken chase a moth like it's on a mission. Your father joins you. He doesn't ask questions, just nods and says, "Roof leaks." You spend the next week fixing it. That's how it goes. Hammer, nail, replace a window, patch a fence, fetch water. No welcome home feast, no grand declarations, just work, familiar, honest work. But you still see the war in things. The color red in sunsets makes your stomach turn. You tense at the sound of distant thunder. You almost hit the ground when a wagon wheel cracks too loud behind you. You keep your uniform in a box under your bed. You take it out once, just to see if it still smells like smoke. It does. Letters come from old tent mates. Some found wives. Some went west. Some didn't make it long after returning. Wounds, whiskey, or simply no longer wanting to stay alive. One writes, "I got married. She's kind. Still not sure she understands." Another, "Built a house. Still dig a trench in my sleep." The last, "I keep hearing drums. Tell me you do too." You don't answer that one. You try going to church. You sit in the back. When the preacher says sacrifice, your stomach knots. They ask you to speak on Memorial Day. You decline. You go fishing. You watch the water ripple and remember rivers stained rust red. You see your little cousin playing with toy soldiers. You quietly take them away and replace them with a carved horse. Historians still argue whether Civil War veterans ever truly rejoined civilian life. Most agree, not fully. There's no ceremony for becoming someone new. No script for walking through town with a body that flinches at memories. You walk with a slight limp now. Not from a wound, but from marching on too many bad boots for too many miles. It never healed right. You don't care. Sometimes, you catch yourself singing war songs while chopping wood. You stop. But the rhythm stays in your swing. One night, you wake from a dream and see the moon casting shadows across the bedroom floor. For a second, you think it's smoke. That cannon fire is coming. That someone's yelling, "Forward." But it's just your brother snoring in the next room. You let out a breath. Outside, the wind rustles the trees. You close your eyes. And for the first time since everything ended, you don't feel like a soldier. You just feel tired and alive. The war is over. The sounds have faded. The boots have stopped marching. Now, your days move slower. The sun rises without urgency. The wind feels gentle, not cold. The only uniform you wear is dirt-stained linen, and the only battle you fight is keeping the crops alive through late summer heat. Your hands still remember the rifle, but they hold hammers now. Your mind still wanders to that battlefield with the twisted oak tree, or the prison fence that creaked in the dark. But when it does, you let the memory pass, like smoke rising, drifting, disappearing into air that no longer smells like powder. The nights are softer now. You lie in bed and hear only crickets and the rustle of chickens settling down in the coop. No drums, no shouting. Just quiet. That deep, good kind of quiet. Sometimes you wonder what all of it meant. The blood, the letters, the boots in the mud. You may never know. History books will write their version. But you remember the sound of harmonica in the dark, the taste of warm bread after days of hunger, the moment you realized you weren't fighting for glory, but for the man next to you, and for a way back home. And here you are, still breathing, still healing, still healing, still healing, still home. So now, you close your eyes. You're not marching anymore. You're resting. And you made it. Good night.